You're being sexually harassed at work. What do you do? Next on the HR Czar. I cannot tell you the number of sexual harassment investigations I've done over the years, literally over 100. I've done different sexes, same sex. Generally, they are females reporting males' inappropriate behavior. But I'm going to tell you some things that you need to know if you're being harassed and how to know you're being harassed. And I know you think that sounds, well, of course I'm being harassed. I know I'm being harassed. A person saying one stupid thing, one stupid joke, or making one comment, or doing one strange thing, unless depending on what the thing is not harassment. Harassment is defined as repeated and offensive. Repeated and offensive. Repeated and offensive. Remember that. Everybody says something stupid at some time, or makes a bad joke or an off-color joke, or says something that they're like, ooh, probably shouldn't have said that, probably shouldn't have done that. Some people get caught up in the camaraderie of work and they do something that the person's like, I'm offended. That offended me. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people won't tell you they're offended. They just run down the HR or they run to their lawyer and say, I'm offended. You gotta tell the person you're offended. Here's the second part of sexual harassment. It has to be repeated and unwanted, and you need to tell the person that offends me, because they're gonna get you in court and they're gonna say, Sally, did you ever tell Billy that him constantly grabbing his belt buckle and stuff offended you, that you thought that it was inappropriate? No. Well, you say it tremendously affected your work and it offended you. Why would you not tell him that that offended you? It's going to come up as to, if it was that egregious, why didn't you say anything? Now, you can say, I was afraid of losing my job. I didn't want to make waves. I didn't want to appear as somebody that makes trouble. Yeah, you can do that. But you need to tell the person, hey, don't do that. I don't like that. So you can go back, that if it ever, God forbid, if it ever comes to that case where you're in court, you can say, yeah, on several occasions, on May 1st, on May 11th, on May 20th, on June 4th, I told him, don't do that. It offends me. And he kept doing it. Keep a log of every time something offensive happens. I'm going to tell you why. I've done hundreds of these investigations, and most of them are he said, she said. No one's around. When did he grab you? In the supply room. Who was there? I don't remember. Who saw him coming into the supply room? I don't remember. When did it happen? I don't remember. It kills your credibility. I know it's an awful thing to happen, but you got to do this. Take a pad, write down, okay, keep a log of it. I hate to say this, but this is admissible in court. On June 10th, Billy came in and stood behind me and put his hands on my hips when we were in this supply room. Janet and Teddy were both outside talking and saw him walk in. They may not have seen what happened, but they were both there. If somebody notices it or sees the action or heard it, write down, Ted, Jim, Bill, Betty, Nancy, Maria, we're all there. Write down who was there. Write down the day that it happened, the time that it happened. This is really important because they're going to ask you and they're going to drill you on that. Then find out if anybody else had that problem and say, look, I know for a fact Sally, Terry, and Janet have that same problem with them. Really, they've never come forward. You need to make sure that you have those names and say, hey, this has happened. Now, maybe those three people won't say, it's nothing. It's just the way he is. That's just the way he is. But if it's a repeated thing, again, we get back to repeated. If he's doing it with you and he's doing it with three other people, that's repeated. Going up to you and making an off-color remark about your dress you're wearing or something like that. Or I've even had people, this is what a strange society we're in, where someone has gone up and given a compliment to somebody and they're like, what did you mean by that? I look good in that dress. What did that mean? Pervert. And ran right into my office. What's wrong, Sally? He said I look good in the dress. he's talking about my body parts. I go, no, he said you look good in a dress. He was giving you a compliment. No, he's a pervert, and I want him fired. Sally, he just said you look good in a dress. Does he say it to you all the time? No. You're gonna lose credibility with your company if you run and yell wolf every time somebody tells you you look nice. That's not harassment. If everybody in the department is telling off-color jokes, you're screwed too. Because if you're sitting there laughing at Sally and Alice making off-color remarks about genitalia, and all the other guys are laughing and you're laughing, but all of a sudden Billy, who you can't stand, tells a joke, and you're like, "Oh, sexual harassment, sexual harassment, sexual harassment." You can't do that. It's become a norm in your group to tell those jokes. And then what's going to happen in court, and I've seen it happen, the judge said, what makes the difference between 8 people telling that joke and Billy telling that joke? You laughed at the other people's jokes, which were the same and as crude and as rude. Why? Because you don't like Billy. I'm not making excuses for people that do that kind of stuff. I'm just saying, if you're in a group in your office and they're all doing something like that, then you can't pull one person out of the group and say he's a harasser. Now, if Billy's doing something else different and he's harassing you in other ways, in addition to that, that's a different story. But keep a log, and it's not always touching. It can be putting an arm bar up and not letting you walk by. It can be any number of things on harassment. But document, document, document. Now, here's the other thing about reporting. A lot of people I go to, I had one in San Francisco. I flew all the way out and I asked the young lady, I go, are you having a problem with this particular person? Yes. And she started to cry. And I go, what's wrong? And she goes, I know the company holds this person, which they did, in very high stead. And I'm afraid if I push this, they're going to give me a package, or I'm going to get transferred, or something bad's going to happen. I remember when another girl had a problem in the office down the street from us, and you separate them, because the law says if someone's accused you of sexual harassment, I have to separate the parties. That's the law. I have to separate. It's not an admission of guilt. I have to separate the parties. She goes, I can't afford to drive in to Oakland. I have to stay in San Francisco. And I go, I understand. She goes, that's why I didn't report it. I don't want to be transferred out of here, and I know they won't transfer him out. That's not a reason to not put your cause in. You need to put it in, because what's going to happen is you're going to come the termination date. You're going to come back and you're going to say, I was harassed by him for 3 years. Really? 3 years? Why didn't you say anything? I didn't want to drive to Oakland. Oh, okay. But it bothered you so much that you didn't say anything for 3 years because you didn't want to transfer to Oakland. No one's going to believe it. You are protected by laws. You're protected by the EEOC. You're protected by the company. Most companies, if not all, come down really hard on sexual harassers, no matter how high up they are in the company. I've let VPs go before for sexual harassment. You have to make sure you have your facts and what happened and witnesses, but not reporting it is not good. If you get a customer survey, an employee survey, I put out cultural surveys 4 times a year in my company. You know, how are the bonuses? How are the promotions? How's work life? How have you ever been sexually harassed? Now, it's confidential. If you answer no, and I go, well, look, for the San Francisco area, I asked this question, and for the past 4 surveys I've done, no one said they've been harassed. It's a confidential. Why didn't you say anything? Why do I'm tracing it back to me? I go, it's confidential. There's no way to trace it back to you. Say something about it. Put it in there so they can investigate, so they know something about it. If you put up with it, what you put up with will continue. Anything in life. What you put up with will continue. You have to report it. You are protected, but make sure that you've got it documented. If you just yell wolf because the person's made you mad, you're also going to face the consequences now, being terminated for putting in false information. And I have done that before. I've terminated employees who just didn't like the person and just made stuff up. I did the investigation, couldn't find anything. They had no documentation. And the person would say, I made it up. I mean, I've actually had him confess to that. I made it up. I don't like him. I want him fired. Don't do that. If you are being sexually harassed, it's a horrible thing. Don't put up with it. Don't stay silent about it. Go to your HR department, find out if your company has an 800 number that you can call confidentially. Contact your EAP, because they'll report it to the company. They won't say who you are. They'll just say there's a sexual harassment issue going on in the general area, so they know. Or write a letter to the CEO. The CEO, he or she must act by law. If you send a letter saying, I, Janet Smith, have been harassed by this person on these dates and feel like I am in a bad workplace, a hostile environment, a hostile workplace, that CEO must take action and investigate it. Again, you have to have your documentation. And realize this, you may still have to work with the person. They may find out we don't have any evidence. A lot of it's he, she said, he said, there's no evidence. Can you guys still work together? They'll ask him, they'll ask her. You're gonna have to say, can I deal with that or can I not deal with that? But report it. That shouldn't be your determining factor for not reporting it. You must report it and you must document. You just can't say, I feel uncomfortable around him and not be able to give any specific situations that happen, times, dates, all that. So report it, write a letter, keep it in writing so it's known. Don't say, well, verbally I told the HR person. Some HR departments turn every 6 to 8 months, there's a different person in the HR department. I told the HR person while she left. She never wrote it down. We didn't know about it. Write a letter. Write a letter or an email, something that you can track. I've been harassed. These are the dates. I'd like it investigated. It's a hostile work environment, and I do not want to lose my job about this. You cannot be fired. It's retaliation. You cannot be fired. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. There are some companies that don't like to deal with this, and they may put a little heat on you because it's upset the workflow. It's upset the work environment. I'm being totally honest with you. It shouldn't be that way, but there are a few that will do that. Be able to take the heat, stay with it, keep it documented. This is something that's not right. This is something that legally they have to take measures on, and if they don't, they're in trouble. But you gotta report it. You gotta say something. You stay quiet. You don't know how many other people are being affected by this person. How many people is this person doing this to? You don't know. And then you come forward and maybe they come forward. Maybe there's a lot of them come forward. Maybe there's 25 of them that come forward. I've seen that happen before. One person makes a statement and all of a sudden it gets around 25 other people that kept documentation come forward. Then there you go. In conclusion, make sure that you document, but please report it. Sexual harassment is very serious. You must report it. Pervert.